Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome back to the Disney Movie Marathon. This episode will be very random. I've been planning to do an episode on the Disney short Donald in Mathmagic Land for a while. It's definitely not an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, but it has a bunch of Wonderland-inspired nods in it, so I thought it could fit in with my other Wonderland episodes. I asked Jenna and Mark to join me for this one as they're both Disney history buffs. I also could have sworn Mark had suggested we do Mathmagic Land years ago. He didn't remember suggesting it, but was totally down to do it anyway. Either way, we planned to do that one, and suddenly Jenna sent me a couple of shorts she'd randomly remembered that covered some even more obscure Disney Alice educational material than Donald in Mathmagic Land. I love obscure Disney shorts, so I was like, perfect. So before we talk about Donald in Mathmagic Land, we've got two other very random edutainment shorts from Disney starring Alice in Wonderland. The first is a 1978 anti-bullying short called Alice in Wonderland, A Lesson in Appreciating Differences, and the second is a 1989 Epcot educational short called Writing Magic with Figment and Alice in Wonderland. And then of course we'll finish it out with the much more famous, but still very obscure, half-hour short, Donald in Mathmagic Land. So we'll start with Alice in Wonderland, A Lesson in Appreciating Differences. Do you have like backstory on this, like where it came from?
I mean, I know it was, I know it's 1978. I know that it was made by Disney Educational Programs. I know that wasn't necessarily a new thing because I think maybe I should have done some more research into the educational programs. But I remember like there was some stuff with like Jiminy Cricket, no full programs before this. So it feels really clumsy to me though. So you would think that they were starting out or something, but no, they weren't. But at least the previous stuff was like animated stuff. I don't know if maybe they hadn't done live action before. No idea. Um, the only thing I know about this one for sure is that there was this very strange rumor that circulated around that you know how in the Disney movies they don't do Jabberwocky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for some reason, I don't know how, because you can imagine this film, yeah, I use film loosely, short, I would say short, um, would be recorded in like books, just the title and the year, and there usually wouldn't be any more information about it. So I think somebody saw this, and for some reason, they went, "Oh, the Jabberwocky's in it." And for some reason, everybody else took that and they just ran with it. And at some point, there was some like cell, like some like commercial cell Disney made at some point, I suppose, showing a Jabberwocky like over a background. And I don't really know the history of that cell, but someone connected it like, oh, it's a frame from Alice in Wonderland, A Lesson in Appreciating Differences.
Hmm.
And it's like, in particular, it went really wild to Tumblr at some point, and I've never been able to make that connection of where this rumor came from, why someone thought this, and why everyone else decided to run with it. Because it's like, if that was the case, wouldn't it have been tracked down like immediately, and someone would have been like, "Hey, it's actually kind of boring, guys." it, it doesn't. That would actually be an interesting shirt if it was about the Jabberwocky and he's like feeling left out or something because he's so different.
Very
But no,
much.
that's not what happens. So that is actually ironically the most interesting thing about this short, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, and I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all the quote unquote background I have. And part of that isn't even really about the background.
Was it released? Like, this isn't long
Oh,
enough to
it
be a
would be released
show.
on like um I'm bad with formats, but it'd be released on like reels and they would show them in
Hmm.
schools.
To
Um
projector reels.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Disney educational
That
programs,
makes sense.
yeah, they would send materials to schools that or you could have them for purchase. Not too long ago, they still had like a separate website where they would sell all this stuff on DVD. I remember my old collaborator on Curious Archive found that website and a bunch of stuff for sale and he bought it. And most people aren't really aware of it because it's usually for schools.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it can get kind of expensive because technically it comes with like a license to show it or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's literally just shorts, reels. They are meant to show children. it's a movie day. I guess we'll just jump into it. Um,
There's so little to jump into.
I
It's
mean, yeah.
this little
yeah,
girl, well, not a little girl, she's like almost a teenager.
I wrote that girl is too old for this lesson.
Yeah. The whole thing felt like almost forced. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
it feels like something that should be obvious, but that probably has to do with the fact that she was so much older than she should have been. It would have felt more natural if this was a little girl, but whatever. She's basically talking about her friends are planning on ostracizing a new kid because he's weird and
Poor guy.
awful. But she doesn't explain why, like what
Yeah.
he did that was awful and different and weird, and she just keeps calling him that.
I think the only thing she said was he wants to walk me home or something. And it's like,
But it didn't seem
it's a
like
bit
that
forward.
was, yeah.
Is that weird though?
I mean, I suppose if you truly do not know someone, it's sort of strange, but like
I would
if you're
feel a little weirded out, to
kids,
be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would too, but I don't know. It feels like it shouldn't be that weird for this setting, but also she's way too
Don't
old
you
for
know,
this.
like that's practically getting married at that age. If a boy walked you home, then you're practically married. That's
I feel like if the kid was the age that this lesson feels targeted towards, it would feel less weird.
yeah,
Because like if it's a 6-year old and another 6-year old says, "Want to walk home together?" That doesn't feel weird.
yeah, I agree.
Even in the short, it didn't seem like that she thought the guy was weird because he offered to
Yeah,
walk her
yeah.
home. It seemed
Oh
like
yeah.
he was already preconceived as weird before this, and then oh by the way, he also offered to walk me home.
No, I agree with you. Like it seemed like she already had the opinion he was weird. And then that
Hmm.
like was the cherry on top, because why would she let a weird boy walk her home? But yeah, they never really addressed why he was weird. Oh, yeah, also, did you guys catch that her name's Alicia? Alicia?
Yeah, Alicia. I was
Yeah, I
like, is
forgot about
this?
that.
I
Oh,
because the at first when he called her Alicia, I was like, is that why they're calling this
Alicia.
Alice in Wonderland? How does this tie into Alice in Wonderland?
It's just like, I'm just gonna tell you a story based on your name.
And it's not even the whole story. It's a random piece of the part of the movie with the flowers in it. That's all the story is.
Yeah. So for anyone watching this who hasn't watched it, it's literally the live action is original. That's something you can say about it. Um, I will say the sound is atrocious. I don't know what they thought they were doing. It was so windy, it sounded awful. But anyway, it's a young girl. She's judging a classmate to like an adult who's like an uncle, neighbor kind of person, whatever. Who
Uncle
then
Phil.
explains Uncle Phil, yeah, and he's like, it's not so nice to judge. Like Alice was judged when she went to Wonderland, and then it uses clips where Alice is Wonderland. It's basically just the All in the Golden Afternoon
Yeah, I
sequence,
was
and
gonna
then
say it's not really even clips, it's just like the entire scene of the
Yeah,
Golden Afternoon song followed by her being bullied, which is all one part of the movie.
yeah,
which I think is the most exposure that scene's ever gotten.
yeah, it's not even like the most interesting scene in Wonderland.
Hmm.
It's really the only thing you can really like get out of the movie to be anti-bullying.
Hmm.
To be honest, I don't think this lesson is a bad lesson to use Alice in Wonderland for. I just don't think there's anything in the Disney Alice that you can adapt to do this. Because Alice doesn't really like appreciate the differences she comes across in the Disney Alice movie.
That's true.
He's just so tired of it all.
Not really like, oh, this is so neat. Wow. I'm so glad I came here. It's more, I want to go home. People are weird. Like, so I,
Alice was the bully all along.
That's a deep
yeah,
message right there.
pretty much. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's like, I don't think this is the adaptation for this lesson, but they got the one scene from the movie, I guess. Good for them. And that's it. She learns that she was wrong, I guess.
Yeah,
Yay.
really. The clip ends and she suddenly sees the error of her ways and she's got to make a phone call.
Yeah,
Like instant lesson learned.
yeah, it's odd. And then also I noticed, okay, so he compared a tree to a weed.
Hmm.
And I was like, is this like the best analogy for the situation? Because a tree,
I think they just wanted to segue into the Golden Afternoon segment.
yeah, but a weed, like, weeds aren't good. Are they?
I mean, it depends on your point of view. Sometimes one person's weed is another person's foraged meal.
I guess.
Like dandelions. People hate dandelions, but some people think they're pretty. Other people will actually eat them or make them into salad or wine or I think that was the point of it, but like everything else in this, it felt very forced to the way they did it.
Yeah.
They didn't
That
make
wasn't.
it make too much sense.
I feel like if we're gonna use this kind of analogy, then should talk about how the weed can be useful, but I don't remember them doing that.
No, they didn't. They
Yeah.
the thing was only 9 minutes, and at least half of that was taken up by the clip of the movie.
Yeah.
So they really didn't have much time to work with to make this into something more cohesive.
The only other note I have is he says Alice went through a tree trunk hole, and I thought that was strange.
Hmm.
Um, and that's all I have notes on. The dude doesn't even remember Alice in Wonderland.
Is he thinking of the scene where the Cheshire Cat opens the door to the castle?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but that happens after the flower scene, the garden scene. So I don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
The only other thing I got is the guy who plays Uncle Phil is the guy who directed this.
Oh, didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
I think he
I,
also wrote it, if I'm not mistaken, from what I saw in the credits. But yes, it's his thing, and he put himself as Uncle Phil.
like, I'm so cool.
Either that or I can't find anyone else to get in this thing.
Oh yeah, it could be that too.
Maybe I should have, because I believe this was a series, not with Alice, but with other Disney films being used to like
Mm.
teach lessons in 9 minutes. I wonder if he was also involved in those. Maybe Uncle Phil is a recurrent character. I don't know.
And then he became the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air after that.
And that's all I have for this one. It's unoffensive. That's that's the most I can give it.
Yeah, it's an interesting historical artifact, I guess. Like most people are never going to know about something like this. I literally wouldn't have never found this one except you knew about it because you're an expert in Alice in Wonderland.
You're welcome.
So based on just a quick IMDb search, the actor's name is Philip Abbott, and yes, he did write it. And you're right, Jenna, he did direct a number of series
Mm.
that were based on Disney films. There's Bambi, A Lesson in Perseverance, Lady and the Tramp, A Lesson in Sharing Attention, uh, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Dumbo, 101 Dalmatians, Cinderella, and Fox and the Hound, and Jungle Book. So I guess this was his passion project. I don't know.
He was hired, I assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, bit odd. I'm not sure. This is the kind of thing where the most interesting about it would be the backstory.
Yes.
Um, and but at the same time, there's not really much to dig into here.
Hmm.
Is he still alive? Maybe we could send him a letter. Like, okay, how did this happen?
He died in 1998, so
No, shucks.
yeah, too late. Oh well, we tried.
I can't believe the old man in 1978 isn't still alive.
Would have thunk.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe the actress is still alive, but I doubt she knows anything.
I looked up her on IMDb as well, and that seemed to be the only thing she's appeared in. So
Oh no,
if she's alive, she's probably well into obscurity at the moment.
probably.
Or maybe she has a
Yeah.
Facebook page open where she talks about her her one acting experience.
You ever think about how these people like they act in these one-off things and then they just live their lives, never doing any acting again? I always thought that was interesting.
I
Mm.
keep finding that with because like I'm right in the middle of doing a series on Peter Pan, and I
Hmm.
keep finding that with people who played the Lost Boys. Like so many of the people who played the Lost Boys, that was the only thing they ever did. Even the ones that are like
Hmm.
really good actors. It's kind of weird. It's like they came in, did one movie, and then went back to normal life.
Probably couldn't find work or something where they realized they wanted to do something else or something.
Well, it could be, but they're also like little kids, and in the one case,
Hmm.
the kid got the part by accident because he was the younger brother of the actress Anna Popplewell,
Oh, okay.
who was auditioning for Wendy, and she read the
Is
part
that a
with him.
Papa the from Narnia?
Yes.
Okay.
She read for Wendy with her little brother doing the part of Michael, and they liked him over her. He
Oh
wasn't even
no.
auditioning.
It reminds me of the how they got the kid to voice Russell in Pixar's Up. He just came tag along with his brother who was auditioning, and they liked him better.
Reminds me of Cats Don't Dance, the little boy penguin, how they found the voice actor for that. It was just a little boy living his life that they randomly saw, and they were like, that's him. That's
Well,
our character. And
Just a little boy randomly living his life. That's him. That sounds kind of ominous.
until one event changed everything.
until his whole life was changed by voicing a penguin.
You want to be in the pictures, kid?
Anyway, I always just find it interesting, especially like kid parts, because they
Mm.
probably never think about them again. Or they just go, huh, wonder if anyone's seen that, you know?
Even like bigger parts too. It like Peter Ostrom, the actor who played Charlie in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That was the only film he ever did. He became a veterinarian after that.
I'm trying to think. Didn't I think the little girl actress in Madeline, like the '90s movie Madeline, also like
Oh, okay.
stopped acting like immediately after that. Oh, I like that
Mm.
Madeline, but I grew up with it.
I never seen that one.
She did a pretty good job.
I feel like we watched that several times as kids. Like, I think my brothers kept borrowing it from the library.
Hmm.
Anyway, I guess we're getting off on a tangent here. I wonder if she ever thinks about this. Is all.
If you're listening to this, let us know.
I forgot your name. I think it started with a J.
Her name was Sandy Waldman.
Sandy. I don't know where I got the J from. Sandy, if you're listening to this and you remember what this was like, or the old man you asked with, that'd be interesting to hear.
I'm sure if we reach out on social media, someone will get it to her.
Yeah. But yeah, I really do wonder if like they ended up not being able to get a younger actress, or maybe some of the kids were multiple of these shorts. Who knows? I haven't seen the others.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I've seen other educational things where they get someone who is obviously too old for the part, but they're trying to appeal to younger kids who might look up to an older actor.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I, I I don't know how old Sandy was in this, but she looks like she's like 13 at least.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely looks too old to be ostracizing someone for being weird. Although, I mean, I guess that still does happen, so
Well, to innocently do it.
that's
Now,
true, yes. Yeah.
I believe teenagers at this age are doing it purposely.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's a
true.
skill.
Yeah, but that's at that point it becomes a hobby.
Yes, one becomes proficient in it.
Hey, that's all I have to say about this one.
Yeah, we can probably move on to writing magic with Figment and Alice in Wonderland.
I like this one a lot more.
Just rolls off the tongue.
I have always heard of the character Figment, but I have never seen him in anything. This is the first time I've ever seen Figment in
Oh,
anything.
okay.
Oh,
Because
oh
you
yeah,
haven't been
you've
to
never
the
been to a
Epcot,
Disney
yeah.
park, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I haven't.
Do you want to explain it to him, or shall I?
You go ahead, Jenna. You got this.
All right. Well, as a Disneylander, I felt a little ill-equipped to explain the wonders of Figment. But basically, when Walt Disney World opened their second park, Epcot, they had this ride called Journey into Imagination. It was a beautiful ride, literally about a man named Dreamfinder who makes up a figment called Figment, a little purple dragon. And they were kind of like the mascots of Epcot at this time because they were the only characters Epcot had. And the other Disney characters weren't allowed in the park at first because they wanted to set it up. I don't know. Early Epcot was kind of a different. It was unique. It's hard to explain Epcot in a nutshell to someone who doesn't have the context for it. But at that time, they didn't want the other Disney characters in the park because they wanted to differentiate it and they wanted it to appeal more to adults. But still, they had like a kid-oriented ride, Journey to Imagination. So I don't. Anyway, Figment as the only character in this park, really, besides Dreamfinder, like blew up in popularity at that time. So 1989 is when this short was made, and they were also like doing a lot of Epcot media because Epcot was a more educational experience. you were supposed to learn while you were in the park. And this is still part of the Disney educational programs, but it's kind of like they got like another chapter of it, I guess you could say, like called Epcot Educational Media that this short was a part of. But anyway, at some point, uh, who was the original sponsor of Journey to Imagination?
I don't remember.
Was it Kodak? I believe it was Kodak, but I might be wrong. In Epcot, all the rides were like sponsored by different companies, and the sponsor basically, according to the contract, they wanted the ride to be updated like every 10 year ish or so. So they updated the ride. They took them out.
Yes,
People were
Kodak
upset.
was the first sponsor.
Kodak was. I was right.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah.
um. Anyway, and people were upset at losing Figment. They put him back in, and that's the current ride today. To be honest, he's a little annoying. It's so it's really sad. I highly recommend looking up the original Dream to Imagination if you ever have the time. You won't be spoiling anything because it's no longer there. It's something else now. It's journeying into your imagination with Figment. But Figment is still very much a very beloved character. So that's the context behind this character.
You can get a lot of merch of him at the parks.
Yeah, yeah. I bought a statue of him, like a little like ceramic statue of him when I was there. He's a cute boy. He's so charming, especially in the original ride. Anyway, so I guess in regards to this, apparently this was part of a series called Language Arts Through Imagination. And I guess he was in this series, like kind of, I guess you could say hosting it.
So was this at the parks?
No. Well, I mean, it was filmed. It looks like it was like kind of filmed in the vicinity of the parks at least, because I noticed Alice, for instance, in this, she is wearing one of the park Alice costumes.
Oh, good catch. Hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it's basically the smallest size available. So, skipping ahead a little bit, the Alice is played by a little girl. The park costume is meant for adults. So they put her into the smallest size. It's still a little too big on her, but that's why it looks bigger.
Hmm.
So yeah, it seems like to me it's filmed at least nearby, but I can't tell you where it was filmed. And it also looks like the other parts of the series, Language Arts Through Imagination, one had like Peter Pan. So it looks like they did this like multiple characters with Figment.
That doesn't really surprise me. That seems like, well, judging from the other one, it seems like they like reusing their movies in an educational setting because
Yeah.
it's what it's probably similar to what they used to do with the TV. Like they already have all this animated
Mm,
footage. Why
yeah.
not get some more use out of it?
It's probably cheaper than making something new or getting
Yeah,
rights for something else.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of their live action, sorry, a lot of their educational programs use live action. I've watched a few Disney educational programs, not all of them. To be honest, it would be interesting to have someone who's into Disney educational programs that could tell you, like, he's like, oh yeah, I've seen them all. um, but I
There's your
remember, like,
next co-host, Jonathan.
yeah, I remember like live action one about like playground safety with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Um, like they had a lot of these, and they were usually live action just because it kind of ends up being cheaper. And
Hmm.
then they reuse the animation they do use is usually reused, though in this Figment he is animated, but I would assume probably the animation is reused throughout the series and maybe even any other series they might have been in at this time.
I felt like the animation was, I don't want to say cheaper, but like they used as minimal movement as they could, so probably was cheaper. Like it did not look bad, but it
Yeah.
wasn't as fluid as you would expect a Disney film to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I don't think well, they're not making profit off this essentially,
Yeah.
really.
Hmm.
So anything this is more about image, I guess.
So is this something that they would have sent to schools as well?
Yeah, or schools would have bought it. So this would have been on a VHS tape. So I guess we could jump into it. So this one, there's a kid. He has a Alice book. Funnily, I had the same Alice book growing up.
I thought it looked familiar. I didn't have it, but it looked familiar, so I wonder if it was something that maybe I saw at the library or something.
It was pretty big at the time, I think. And if Alice goes missing in it, and Figment's like, want to help me help Alice get back to Wonderland, then yeah, that's basically it. That's the plot of the short. And for some reason, they decide writing a story will help her get back into Wonderland, even though it's never really explained why she's out of Wonderland. And that's
There
the
was so much
story.
about that that did not. I mean, it's supposed to be teaching kids the writing
The
process,
writing process,
like
yeah.
brainstorming, writing, and rewriting. But like
Yeah.
the way they went about it, it was like if their imagination has this much power to bring this wizard to life and then to go and visit the wise dragon in another land, why can't you just write that Alice goes home?
Yeah, it's silly. But to be honest, like I remember this whole like, oh, how to write a story thing when I was a
Hmm.
kid, and these exact steps. But like like oh yeah, I remember this, and I never understood the revised one, right? The revised step, because I'm like, I wrote it. What do you want from me? Like, you want me to rewrite it like immediately after I wrote it? And then, that's not how revising or drafting your story goes.
I feel like if not that I'm writing fiction or anything, but I feel like I'm rewriting as I write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it's an understandable process when you're an adult. Um, I feel like it makes more sense to kids if you like have them ask other people what they think and whether
Yeah.
they incorporate those ideas into their story or something like that.
Hmm.
But I never understood that as a kid. I was just like, okay, I'll change some words around, I guess. Like,
Change a big to a huge or something like that.
and I guess the main thing is just teaching kids to like be open to changing things. Like your story's not done. Your story just doesn't have to be done because that's just how it is. You could change it if you want to, maybe.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I've always thought it was a weird way of teaching kids how to write stories. But that's not any criticism of this actual short, really, because that's just something they did. Were you guys ever taught to write stories like this?
I don't remember how I was taught to write stories, actually.
I don't think I was ever taught really to write fiction. I was mostly, my writing projects were like book reports, not making up
I
my own stories.
I remember the 5-page essay that I remember got knocked into me from
When
a young age.
the first time I
5-paragraph essay, sorry.
really the first time I can think of that I was given an assignment to write a story was in college when I purposely took a fiction or poetry writing class because I took a few of those classes just because I was interested in that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But I don't remember ever being assigned that for regular school.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I remember it.
I think maybe in 5th grade, I did have to write for our language arts. We had writing, like had to write some stories. I remember writing for that, but I that's probably it.
I think I wrote stories for fun, but
Yeah,
I don't think
same.
I was ever
Not for
assigned
school.
it.
Hmm.
I wrote stories for fun. I never rewrote my stories, though.
Hmm.
I didn't either. I just wrote something and moved on.
I remember particularly this one assignment where we had to write the Three Little Pigs, and I was missing the day that my teacher assigned it. So I came back the next day and someone was like, "Oh yeah, we're writing our stories about Three Little Pigs. Like, you have to write a story." And I was like, "What does that mean?
The
The Three
story
Little
already
Pigs is the Three Little
exists.
Pigs. Like, do I have to write about what happens to them after everything? Is that it?" And so that's what I did. I guess my teacher was trying. I guess she was trying to teach them about adaptations. I don't know, retelling. It was weird.
Like putting something in your own words, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So my version, the little kids, Three Little Pigs went to college after everything,
Wow.
and then became educated and got jobs in the happily ever after.
Education saves you from the big bad wolves.
Ironically, I did not go to college. Or
Nice.
actually, I did. I didn't finish. But anyway, so that's my thought process about writing stories for kids. Whereas this thing, um, this short, I said, let's see, I said Figment kidnaps children confirmed. Um, which he does. Uh, the Alice actress isn't that bad, and she's even attempting Catherine's Beaumont's accent, which is a difficult accent.
I thought the accent was good. Wasn't sure if that was her real accent or if that was she trying to do it.
It does sound put on. Like I don't believe it's
Hmm.
her actual accent. I think she's trying to imitate Alice.
I wasn't fond of the kid though. He annoyed me a little bit.
It felt like they were little kids putting on a play,
Yeah, which I guess is
especially the
what they're
boy.
supposed to be doing. Yeah,
Alice was better than him.
yeah, correct.
I was actually a little endeared by Andy, though. That's his name. I
Okay.
wrote it
I
down
mean, he was a cute
because
kid.
he says Alice was his favorite story. How can I
I
not like him?
I like how he saw her and went, Alice in Wonderland, you're here. Like her name is Alice in
Yeah, yeah, it's the
Wonderland.
same. Yeah.
It reminds me of Alice in Wonderland in Paris, that weird movie from the 60s.
I
Um,
haven't seen that one yet.
you don't need to. It's not even about Alice in Wonderland. It's uh anyway, so I'm like, oh, it's his favorite book. How wonderful. And then immediately almost negates it. I still kind of like him, but he almost negates it by saying, I know a girl named Dorothy with ruby slippers. And I was like, oh, screw you. You're not a nerd after all.
He read the book adaptation of the movie. That's what happened.
Yeah, evidently. Oh, goodness knows his favorite book version of Alice is the Disney adaptation. So
Correct. There is no Jabberwocky. There is no Bandersnatch.
That's probably true, though. If his book of Alice in Wonderland was from the Disney Alice in Wonderland, who's to say his book of Wizard of Oz wasn't from the MGM Wizard of Oz?
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, probably. I actually did have my first copy of Wizard of Oz was the original Wizard of Oz text, but it had illustrations heavily inspired by the MGM movie.
Wow.
So,
Did they paint the rubies red? I mean, the
no,
slippers
it
red.
was silver. It was still illustrations for the book, and Dorothy
Okay.
was younger than Judy Garland.
Mhm.
But the illustrations for like how her dress looked, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodsman, and the Cowardly Lion looked very much like the movie. So yeah, I can imagine there's book adaptations that focus more. Oh my gosh, I'm just remembering there was a Barnes and Noble like leather-bound edition where she had red slippers or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was so upset. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Like to speak to your manager.
I feel like Barnes and Noble should have better quality control than that.
They really should, but
That's really bad for Barnes and
this is the
Noble.
world we live in. No one cares.
The downfall of society as illustrated by the wrong slippers on the Wizard of Oz book.
You understand me. And then I also liked how Figment was like, Lewis Carroll had a wonderful imagination. And I was like, oh, it's so nice to hear nice things about Lewis Carroll.
That's true. One thing that stood out to me is like this their whole thing that pushes them to go through this writing process is because they're trying to ask the White Rabbit for help on how to get Alice back, and he's like he doesn't really have time to answer them. He just throws out like one word at a time, right, or something like that, and then every time after when they need to find another step, they have to ask the White Rabbit again, and then he gives them step 2 of the process, which is like if you have all this time to talk to us, couldn't you just kind of told how to get Alice back and
Well,
already
isn't it
instead
like
of
he doesn't even talk to them? It's like other characters are like, oh, I heard him say.
yeah,
Yeah, like
that's true.
the Tweedles are like brainstorm and write, I guess.
And that annoyed me too. The redubbing of the voices just sounded so bad. But
The impersonator wasn't too bad, though. I was like, he could have been worse.
for which character?
Well, the Tweedles were just but his Mad Hatter was pretty good. I don't know. I just assumed it was the same person. I don't know why I assumed that. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I didn't look at the
Credits.
credits for that,
I didn't look either.
but like it just threw me off.
I don't think it was Edwin.
The Mad Hatter impression was okay.
I know Billy, the comedian and actor Billy Barty, he was the voice of Figment in this. I don't know if he voiced Figment elsewhere.
I have no idea. To be perfectly honest, I recognized Billy Barty, but it was because there was an actor in the 1933 Alice named Billy Barty, and I don't think it's the same person.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know who that is. Then I thought in the brainstorm part, like all the
Actually, the Billy Barty was in the 1933 Alice in Wonderland, so it is the same person.
wait, it's the same person?
Yeah, he played the White Pawn / the baby uncredited in Alice in Wonderland
Dude.
1933.
Yeah, then I do know him.
Okay.
He sounds, I don't know. I would have thought he would sound much older in the 80s, but okay,
Well, he did have a form of dwarfism, so I don't know if that affected his voice as well.
maybe. I don't know. Figment just sounds younger to me for some reason. I don't know. Maybe
Hmm.
it's just the association Figment's young. So no, I'm just surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, it is him. Wow.
There we go. You learned stuff on this podcast.
Yeah. I was just gonna be like, haha, same name.
The one other thing that stood out to me that is, I'm sure it's a total coincidence, but Alice became a knight. I was like, did Burton watch this?
Sorry, did who watch this?
Burton,
Burton.
Tim Burton.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I wrote, okay, well, in general, I thought the brainstorm wall was very surprisingly detailed and lovely.
Magic pickles.
But then the whole, like, your imagination run wild, and they've only thought of basic fairy tale tropes, um, except for Figment, who's actually trying, and with pickles. But yeah, like I wrote interesting that Alice is a knight and not the other way around, considering that she was crowned a queen in the Looking Glass.
Oh yeah, they should have done that.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of nice to be honest. But my gosh, that suit of armor looks awful. It looks so uncomfortable.
It
I don't envy her.
was like half a suit of armor. Because
Yeah.
like her dress was sticking out from underneath the top half of it.
Knights and dresses. And I wrote, is role playing really writing? Thoughts.
These are the questions we need.
Is LARPing writing? Um,
I feel like if you asked some nerds that they would say yes.
Yeah, it depends who you ask.
it's definitely a creative process. I don't know if I would call it the same as writing. Um,
I
I'd say
guess
it's
it depends on
storytelling.
how you're doing it. Yeah, I
That's
don't
LARPers, let
true.
know.
us know in the comments.
Do you count it as writing? I don't know. I'd say you are making a story when you're LARPing. I don't think it's writing.
The storytelling, just not writing.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. I guess though in this we're ignoring that because watching kids literally write would be boring. But it's kind of they could have done it in a way where like maybe Andy's like actually writing, and then Alice is the one LARPing because she's a character in his story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see
They could
that.
have done that, and he's like, and this happens, and then that would happen. I don't know. That I think would have been a little bit better in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm not an educational advisor. I guess if kids started LARPing, that's not a bad thing.
I like the wizard. Like I felt that actor was having a great lot of fun with his role.
Yeah, he was just kind
He
of
was
like,
enjoying himself,
yeah, he's just kind of like, I'm here. I wouldn't have fun with it. Like, probably a little overqualified.
probably. But hey, he probably just needed a job.
Yeah. Oh, I also wrote they were casually speciesist against dragons.
I thought something similar, but then Figment kind of brushed it off. He was like, "Hey, some are nice."
Yeah, they're just
Something
kind
like
of like,
that.
sorry, and then just move on. He's in the background. He's like, I'm gonna get these children.
Hashtag not all dragons.
um, so they come up with this like generic story, which is so much like kids. Actually, this is a story I would have told as a kid. Like oh something happens and now we have to go ask a wise character what to do, and we go on like this task, and we don't talk about like the stuff that happens while we go on the task, just how hard it was supposedly. And then the wise character tells us what to do. We go back, and that's no problem at all. We just get there, zippity zap. Then we do the thing, and it's solved. And that's pretty much what happened here. I will say, I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed, a sign in the dragon's lair or cave, whatever, says Disney Procs, like Didnee, and then Procs, Procs. And I was like, that's interesting, like Disney Productions.
Hmm.
Little Easter egg, I guess.
I think I did notice that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. it amused me because it's spelled stupid, and I love when Disney is spelled stupid.
Like the Disney and Daphne meme.
Exactly. I used to say the Disney when I was a kid, so just to be dumb. Oh yeah. Also, I was like, okay, wait. The wizard forgets his magic, so he can't send Alice back to Wonderland. So Alice as a knight has to do all this, has to do the stuff that we're told and we don't see, and ask a wise dragon how to help the wizard get his magic back. Why doesn't she ask the wise dragon how she could get back home?
Ah,
Again, that's
there's the rub.
Yeah,
there were so many things with this, with all the powers of their imagination. They just had to go in this very roundabout way of finding this wizard, but then the wizard doesn't know the magic, and then they have to ask the dragon, and then the dragon gives them a nonsense phrase, and like that doesn't work, and then they have to rewrite the story, and then there's a witch who stole the spell book, and then it's so meandering.
yeah,
But I guess, like you said, it is sort of like how a kid would write a story. So I guess in that respect, it does make sense.
yeah. Like, I guess my thing is, it feels very much like something you it like. It feels like that's how the script's written, essentially.
Hmm.
They're like, okay, we have this goal of we want to have this thing teach children how to write stories. Figure it out. Oh yeah, and it has to involve a Disney character.
Yeah, we need to use clips from our archives to cut down on
Yeah.
budget costs.
Someone else is like, I really like Alice in Wonderland. They're like, cool, great. The kid can write a story with her or something. It doesn't make any sense.
And also throw in the witch from Snow White for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah, that was weird, actually.
I, I loved how they said
And
she was
she
chased.
died by from the forces of good, right?
Yes, she was chased
Yeah.
out of the kingdom by a magic thunderstorm sent by the forces of good.
So good, yes.
Fall off the mountain with a scream. Forces of good. Ah! Gruesome death.
I love those magical thunderstorms.
Act of God, I say. And again, it's also never explained why Alice is even out of Wonderland. So it's a cute short. It's just a frustrating short when you really dig into it. You really have to treat this like cotton candy. It's not substantial. You just have to be like, that's cute, and move on.
Yeah.
Is it time to talk about Donald in Mathmagic Land?
Yes. I think we've probably covered everything we're going to cover in the Figment short.
Yeah.
So this one has a little bit more thought put behind it because I think this was from, what was this? Now I just opened the wiki page. I thought this was from the Wonderful World of Disney TV show, but it says it got nominated for an Oscar.
It was released theatrically in 1959, and then 1961 it premiered on Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always just, in my head, I've always thought of it as from the Wonderful World of,
Hmm.
well, color, but Disney. I guess that makes sense that it was theatrical because there was a much higher production put into this than I would have expected from a show.
I will say, at least I've only seen the first episode of World of Color because it's so hard to watch World of Color, Disney.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Disney. Last time I talked about this, you probably did a streaming service, but you only put select episodes on there. Why don't you put the whole thing, Disney? But anyway, it's a very good episode. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked all of the like I'm not a huge math person, but I liked all the math puns. The thing that made me laugh the hardest, I think, was square roots. I don't know why.
Yeah,
He
that was
said
fun.
that and I just burst out laughing.
I'm not super into it overall, but like, I mean, at least it's half an hour. It has more depth than the other two.
It's not my favorite.
Hmm.
It's okay.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it would be one that I would go back to, but I thought it was more educational than the other ones that we've talked about. Like they actually taught concepts that you could remember and use in other ways.
It felt like it was trying to convince me that magic is cool. Not magic, sorry.
Math,
Math magic.
math magic.
Yeah, math is cool.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, all
It
right.
it felt like somebody who really loves math trying to convince somebody who really hates math that my interests are cool too.
But you know that one point where where Donald's like trying to figure out the billiards and like
Mhm.
completely failing at
Yeah.
doing the angle thing. That's me with math. So like yeah, I guess when you talk about that, it seems like it might be cool. But then when I try to do it, I'm like, nope, no, it's not. I can't do it.
This brings me to the main question I had after this, watching this was, I mean, I've seen this before when I was a kid, like maybe in first grade or something, but I haven't seen it since then. But my biggest question is like, what is the targeted age range for this short? Like,
That is a
what
good
because
question.
a lot of these mathematical like I was one class away from getting a math minor, so I do like math a lot, but
Oh,
I
good.
feel a lot of these topics taught in this, like, it's not really like, arithmetic or numbers or something that, elementary school kids could maybe learn from or targeted. It's more abstract and geometric and angles, and then just like, oh, there's patterns in the world and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure, is this meant for like elementary school kids? Is this some middle school, high school? What is the age range meant for?
It's weird because at the same time, I feel like it doesn't really appeal to kids that much either.
Exactly, yeah.
Like at one point, they're talking about like billiards and stuff, and I can't think of any kids who would really be interested in that.
Which is why I'm thinking like at least high school kids at the minimum is what this is aimed
But
for.
then at the same time, that it feels too young for high school kids, right? Like
Yeah, as well. It's just like
it's kind of
weird
for
mess.
everyone, but also no one.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I did also think that they're like it was a little too broad.
Yeah.
It's more like just trying to convince you, guys, math isn't like as useless as you might think it is.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I guess. All right.
Which goes back to like, yeah, I feel if that was the message they're trying to send, you could do this, at a less broad perspective using numbers and arithmetic and aim it at elementary school kids, and you could get the same message you're trying to teach, and it could be something that would appeal to them and also get them interested in mathematics or something like that. But yeah, it's just a strange the intent and the execution of this is two very different things.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any thoughts, Jonathan?
Mostly just that, like you said, it feels like somebody trying to convince you that math is cool.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I get what they're going for because, like, I'm not a math fan, but I'm not
Mhm.
bad at math. Like, in
Yeah.
school, I hated being forced to do math, but I could always do it. Like, I never had any problem doing it. I just wanted to do art instead.
Yeah.
Oh no. In this classroom, I'm the flunker. Um, I
You're
was
quite, hey, you're the most knowledgeable one here, but we don't stay.
oh, well, thank you. No, I have I kind of have the thing with like how people. Oh my gosh, what's it called? When numbers like move on you.
Dyscalculia.
Yes, that's it. Dyscalculia.
Mhm. It's like dyslexia, but for numbers.
Yes, and I've always had this problem where like whenever I do numbers, I somehow like math equations. I somehow always end up with the wrong number, like completely out of left field. Anyway, so I've always struggled with math. So this kind of short, while it was entertaining, sometimes I was, you know what? I don't know if I want to use the word entertaining.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's too much. That's too strong a word.
it's just it was edutaining, is what I would call it. Where it's just like it wasn't completely boring, but it
Yes.
wasn't entertaining. So it was entertaining, but it also was like I can't really engage with this on a deeper level. Besides relating so much to the Donald, and then the point where you look in his brain is like, oh no, he's relatable. Um, in terms of Alice, I really appreciate like the very beginning part. I felt was very told you would.
Yes.
Yes, they even had the
The pencil bird. Yeah.
Yeah, the pencil bird was like lifted straight out, and I like how they went a step forward and gave him like a ruler body too. I forgot what those things
Oh
are
yeah.
called.
I don't remember what those.
Yeah,
what?
It had one of those. It's not a ruler. It's not a.
it's like a triangle
It's
ruler.
it. Yeah. It's
Yeah, this
I was thinking
episode
a
thing well
protractor,
done.
but that's more hemispheric.
It's tractor something. Oh well.
A triangle ruler is called a set square. Okay.
See, that's confusing right there for some people.
Yeah, that's confusing. But I liked that because it kind of felt like, Lewis Carroll was a mathematician, and it kind of felt inspired by that a little bit, though I can't say that if it was on purpose. But it was like, I feel like if Lewis Carroll as a person saw this, he might have gotten a kick out of it, especially the square roots. I think he would have really liked that. But, and then the part later with the Looking Glass land, that's basically through the Looking Glass as Disney ever gets, like classic Disney.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at how much of that. Like, I was like, this feels like if they'd ever made Through the Looking Glass, they could have done something like this.
Yeah, and I enjoy Donald being Alice. It
He's
was,
the right one. He was the right one to put.
yeah,
It wouldn't work with Mickey or Goofy.
it's interesting though. Like, obviously, he's meant to be the Disney Alice. He's got the same dress and the same hairstyle, even though it's got a bit more of a curl on its end. But he's a brunette in this, kind of odd.
That's why it felt off. Because I
Yeah,
only watched this one once because it was the longest one. I didn't have time to watch it again. But I was like, I was looking at him and I was like, this feels right but wrong at the same time. That's why. It was the hair.
yeah, the hair was weird. And other than that, I liked that they call him a lost Alice. I don't know. It just it kind of implies that they have this history of Alice's walking in and getting lost, and I like that. Um, I don't think it's supposed to be taken that way, but I find my jollies where I can. I also like the part where he goes very interesting. Like he doesn't really care. He's just done. Um, but I felt that was very Alice like. That's something she would have done. Like very interesting. Like especially in Through the Looking Glass where she's kind of done with everybody's tomfoolery. Just like, yes, read me another poem. Go ahead. And that's really all the Alice connection I can really see in this. Though there was kind of a hall of doors towards the end. But anyway, you guys got any comments about those parts or the rest of the short?
The main thing that this short taught me, like with all the math stuff, like I said, I was not bad at math. So for most of this, I was like, I already know all this stuff.
Hmm.
The thing that when I started like actually feeling like I learned something was like the billiards. It's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this
Yeah,
actually
I agree.
like I've never understood billiards or pool, and this also taught me that billiards is not pool. I thought they were the same game, but billiards apparently doesn't have pockets, so that was interesting.
I think this also taught me that same when I saw this the first time when I was like first grade. This also taught me, oh, billiards and pool are two different things.
Well, it taught me that, and I'm in my late 30s now, so you learned it earlier than I did. I really thought billiards was
Nice.
just another name for pool. So, yeah, this actually is educational, I guess.
You know what? I've seen this before, and I guess I must learn that, but I always forget it. So have I ever really learned it?
There's the question.
In a month or so now, I'm still going to call billiards pool and pool billiards.
And vice versa.
So yeah,
I mean, I've never really played either. I've tried playing pool, but I never got it.
I've only
I,
done digital pool.
Nice.
I didn't really realize that there was that much of a strategy. That's the most educational thing was that like people are calculating.
Yeah, billiards especially, like what we saw with all the angles and that there's strategy and skill and
But I
math.
mean, you get that with pool too. Like people use
Mm,
strategy of pool as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how
that's
they
true.
do it.
It's a game of angles.
But yeah, I think the billiards part was actually I'm just gonna call it. It was the most interesting part in the short.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
For me too, yeah. Other than the Alice stuff, because I did find that fun seeing the Alice connections. But then I did
Yeah.
kind of get bored because I was like, I already know about the golden rectangle and the
As an artist, I don't care about the golden rectangle. So
Well, this was also the first thing that taught me the name of what we call the star shape is actually a pentagram, which is also what I learned when I watched this for the first time when I was first grade.
yeah,
It's like pentagram, there's a word.
it's kind of a shape that has sort of association.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I watched this with my boyfriend earlier today,
Mm.
and when Donald gets the pentagram on his palm, he said, "No, I'm a Satanist."
Uh, yeah, I kind of thought similar things when I watched this because I was like, yeah, if my mom had seen this when I was growing up, she would have thought I was watching something evil.
First Donald's a Nazi, now he's a Satanist. This is what's going on.
No, I mean pentacles seem really cool, or pentagrams, whatever they are. They're cool.
Mhm.
Though I think part of that segment, part of what made it weird was this whole secret society jam session.
That
Um,
was awesome.
yeah, I wrote once they groove, they can rest. Like
Were they supposed to be ghosts or what? I didn't really know what was
I think
going
they
on with
were
them.
ghosts. Yeah, because they're like transparent and they're in ruins. So I was like, I think they're ghosts. And then right after that, he gets the Sanctus signal. And it's just like, oh, he's part of their club. Like, that kind of does make you wonder if, like, the imagery of if this is real, does the imagery of these kind of like witch cults and stuff come from them?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should look that up.
Like the pentagram and all that.
Yeah, like they weren't actually witches, but they felt like they needed to hide.
They're secret mathematicians.
Yeah,
I wonder if some of that kind of evolved out of it because I'm on the Wikipedia page for Pythagoreanism, and it says that it was both a philosophic tradition as well as a religious practice. So I wonder
Yeah,
if
that
over time this wasn't something that maybe evolved and or was subject to superstition that people kind of twisted and made into something else.
could be.
mm, yeah. History is interesting like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm kind of surprised they even touched on it, considering, you know, America in the 50s and 60s was so Christian.
Hmm.
Well, I think this stuff like the Satanism stuff, that all happened more in the late 70s and 80s. Because that
Yeah,
turned into like the period people now call the Satanic Panic. So I don't
Hmm.
think that at the time that this was made, the pentagram and all that would have had the connotations that it picked up in the 80s.
yeah. I think, well, like I was
They were just
thinking,
worried about communism at the time.
Yeah.
yeah, prior to this period, because I'm thinking more of like the Haunted Mansion had a lot of like stuff that probably wouldn't have flown in the 70s, 80s.
Hmm.
There was kind of this thing where this stuff was more acceptable because it was thought of as like kind of like fairy tale-ish, like it was antiquated, like not actually
Yeah.
witchcraft. And then the Charles Manson murders happened, and even though that wasn't actually, witchcraft, I think that was more ramblings of a madman.
I wonder how many podcasts about Donald and Mathmagic Land end up into discussions about the Manson murders.
Oh, how many podcasts are about Donald Math Magic Land? That would be my question.
That's true. That's the first question we have to answer.
Yeah. You're welcome, Jonathan. I suppose you could cut this off.
No, this part I'm leaving in.
Yeah. No, but I do think it's interesting because I could imagine even nowadays, if Disney made a short like this, I can imagine they would not focus on the pentagram
No, they would
because
not.
because they wouldn't want people to twist it.
Yes.
Especially since stuff like Da Vinci Code and all that has been in American culture very recently.
Yeah. Even like Donald as a Nazi gets taken out of context.
Hmm.
So I don't think Disney would want to give them any ammo.
No. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Donald and the Mathmagic Land is over here, and the Christian moralists aren't seizing onto it. There's so much material for them to mine in here. It's kind of surprising. At this one point, like you see Donald's head, and then it kind of like supposed to fade into his brain, I guess, and you see like the pentagram on top of a pentagram and a pentagram and a pentagram.
I could totally see somebody taking them and on purpose twisting it into propaganda.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's an interesting time capsule.
I shouldn't laugh because it probably could happen.
Yeah. Again, my boyfriend at one point, I wrote this down because he made me laugh. He's like, witchcraft to burn him. Because of the pentagram being brought up earlier. So, math is magic. I got it.
He was there in the title the whole time.
They were telling us in the title, it's all a secret conspiracy. But yeah, this is, I think that's all I really have to say about it. Do you guys have anything else?
Well, speaking of Haunted Mansion, when you mentioned that earlier,
Yeah.
Paul Frees is the voice of the
Oh,
Spirit
yeah.
Adventure, or whatever it's called. I
Yeah.
thought he did a really great job. I actually thought it was some educational narrator they got to be the narrator, but no, it was Paul Frees. I was like, wow, this guy is really
Disney
talented.
loved Paul Frees at this
Yeah.
time. He
Hmm.
was their boy. He was in everything.
For some reason, I had read that he was in this, and I just assumed that he was going to be in it as Ludwig von Drake. And then when I got to the end, I was like, Ludwig von Drake was not in this. And then I looked it up. Oh, he was the narrator?
Yeah.
But also, June Foray was the queen.
And Dawes Butler was the king.
Yeah. What other Alice thing did Dawes Butler do?
Has he done Alice things?
Did he do that Flintstone one we watched? Not Flintstone. Yeah, the Hanna-Barbera one. Was he in that?
I think he might have
Oh,
been. I feel like we talked about him in a different episode.
uh,
Yeah, he was the King of Hearts in that one,
Okay.
as well as the March Hare and the Sportscaster. So he's actually played a king from Alice in Wonderland twice, which is more than I thought is possible. But here we go.
A king from Alice in Wonderland and a king from Through the Looking Glass.
Yes.
he gets around. Always royal, though. Always a royal.
Oh, I guess the only other thing I would say is like I feel this concept would be good like if Disney made like a series based on this, like maybe on Disney Plus or something, a series of maybe 10-minute shorts where Donald learns some mathematical concept in each of the episodes. I think that could actually work, and tailored correctly with the proper, educators involved could, be very useful in teaching kids mathematics and arithmetic. I think that would be a cool little spin-off thing they could do.
I definitely think it would be better at making their points than this one does to
Yeah.
be segmented. Because this one kind of, in a way, it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
It had so much, and yet it took too long to say some of it. Like I really felt like it meandered so much in certain areas, even the parts that were the most interesting, like the billiards being the thing that taught me the most out of this, since I already knew so much other stuff. It took forever. Like it wasn't that long, but it took forever.
Josh, I thought the worst part was the nature stuff because I don't know. I guess they're technically not wrong, but it was so boring.
That was the most boring to me, but it was partly because it was like I already know all this stuff, and also it's just kind of quiet, and they're just putting like stock footage with math shapes over it, and they could have done it more interestingly.
Yeah.
And the very last thing the narrator says, and this is a quote from, I forget who it was it Rene Descartes somewhere, but he mentions like
Galileo.
math being Galileo, the soul of God.
Mathematics is the alphabet with which God has written the universe.
Yes. So I was thinking, like, I don't think Disney has mentioned God in anything they've done in the past, I don't know how many years. So I'm trying to think this might have been the last thing chronologically I could remember where Disney mentioned God. I don't think that's something they would probably do nowadays.
Well, probably not chronologically, because like in Rescuers, Penny was praying.
Rescuers, yes, I forgot about that.
I feel like there was something else too, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, like, I'm sure they mentioned it, but I can't remember it in the last few years.
Yeah, and definitely not in the recent memory.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but that's just me. I'm okay with it not being referenced. I thought it was kind of weird, but at the same time, I think because Lewis Carroll's the mathematician, so I tried really, really hard to look into his math stuff, and it was
Lewis Carroll.
Yeah, Lewis Carroll. He wrote books about logic and math as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried. By God, I tried. He has some funny quips in between, so there's that. But anyway, he kind of said it himself at some point that, like, for him, math proves that there's a divine creator because there's all these kind of like coincidences or not coincidences, like these things all add up essentially.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of a traditional mindset. And to be honest, I think it's also partially because probably way, way back in the day, they probably were like witchcraft. And they're like, no, it's proof of a divine creator, like, so I'm like not surprised by the ending quote. I don't think it's necessary, but there is kind of a traditionalist approach to it, I suppose. That makes sense.
I feel like it ties into the other like ancient stuff they were talking about. Like not that Galileo is the same as Pythagoras, but
Yeah.
I mean the ancient philosophers talking about math. I think that's probably the tie-in. I think it makes sense from that perspective.
I also had that the snowflake and Donald Duck kaleidoscope animation was pretty good.
Oh, that reminds me. It reminded me of Three Caballeros, the trippy imagery,
Oh yeah,
but also the part with the golden rectangle with him like looking at the perfect woman. I was like, okay, we're
oh
back to
yeah,
Three Caballeros, Donald.
Oh
oh
yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought that too.
Perfect Donald. That's basically him throughout the
Classic Donald.
movies. Yeah, Perfect Donald. He's gotta try.
So we talked about Satanism, cults, Donald being creepy and perverted.
Donald kind of has a pin up of Daisy in his brain.
Oh, that's true. I forgot to mention that. I saw that too.
Yeah, I was just like, at least he's faithful, I suppose,
Sort
while
of.
not being faithful in his actions. But yeah,
His mind is only off for her.
yeah, human woman ain't in his mind. There you go.
Yeah, that's true. Human women are on the outside, the duck women is on the inside. For whatever that's worth.
He knows he won't ever work with the human.
He has realistic standards in the end, I guess.
He has internal values.
When it comes time to settle down, it's Daisy.
Yeah. You know, hey, Donald is a complex character. He's never been famous for being logical and moral. Let's just say that.
That's probably true.
Yeah. But yeah, we touched a lot on this episode.
You ran the gamut.
Yeah. Who knew that math could be so controversial?
There it is, kids. Don't watch this. It's too controversial.
It's too controversial, kids. This is you know what? I'm gonna say at least PG-13.
If for no other reason than kids under 13 are not going to care about this at all.
It's a really big loss.
So, do we believe this deserved the Oscar nomination for Best Documentary?
I don't know. I'm just gonna say it was probably a weak year for winning then.
I don't think it won, right? I think it just got nominated.
Okay. Well, yeah, it was a pretty weak year then that they even nominated it. To be honest, I don't think it does it very well. Like it gives broad concepts, and maybe you could say it does the broad overview well. I don't know how I would agree with that. Maybe I don't have like the knowledge to be able to agree whether it does that well or not.
It lost to a short film called Glass, which was about the glass industry in the Netherlands.
Well, that sounds random, but I'm sure it was a better documentary. I could believe it.
I'm sure the makers of Glass could boast about that. We beat out a Disney film, a documentary Oscar.
What even is the definition of a documentary? Because like I don't know, this doesn't feel like it would fit it.
That is true, I guess. Anything that's teaching
What
something.
is a documentary?
According to the Wikipedia page, the rules and eligibility for Best Documentary Short is a short subject documentary is defined as a non-fiction motion picture dealing creatively with cultural, artistic, historical, social, scientific, economic, or other objects.
Okay, well, I guess it technically is a documentary. I learn something new every day.
There we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but with that definition, yes, that would
Mhm.
qualify.
With that definition, we could qualify.
I suppose.
This is a documentary about Alice adjacent media that Disney has been involved in. Thank you, everyone. Please nominate us.
There we go. Let's get Jonathan's every version ever on the ballot somewhere.
Heck yeah. That's all I have to say.
We did the Manson murders already. Where else is there to go?
Well, on that note, I think that's probably as good a place as any to call it a night.
That's the last time you listen to that Jonathan North podcast.
So controversial.
All he talks about is murder and cults and pentagrams. What is this?
We started talking about Alice in Wonderland and Donald Duck and somehow ended up on Charles Manson.
Manson.
Casual Nazi mention. I'm never listening to this guy again.
Anyway, until the next episode, do you guys want to let people know where to find you if they want more from you? Jenna
If I'm not canceled, I'm Phantomwise on YouTube, and also love Gift of a Fairy Tale on YouTube as well.
and Mark.
You can find my blogs at The Animation Accommodation and theanimationaccommodation.com and my live action Disney project at myliveactiondisneyproject.com.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll be back for something else in the future, but probably not the Manson murders.
Alice in Wonderland beats the Manson murders.
You never know. Jonathan starts a true crime series.
There we go.
Okay, well, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Disney Movie Marathon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My Linktree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.